As a species, we cling to the idea of personal perfection. For some, this is achieved through self-improvement and learning. For others, it's about a new haircut or fashionable clothing. But for a few, neither approach is enough, and extreme measures must be taken, whether that means altering or slicing off the parts you don't like. Modern surgical techniques are not always necessary to drastically modify our appearance. Thousands of tribal peoples from around the world alter their bodies with foreign objects for religious and cultural reasons, subjecting themselves to agonizing pain to fulfill traditions or societal expectations. Around 100 years ago, Chinese girls commonly had their feet bound from an early age to stop them from growing, as larger feet were undesirable. This resulted in deformed toes, permanently bending underneath the sole of the feet. In remote parts of New Guinea, some women cut off a finger each time a close relative dies, wearing their grief outwardly. In Ethiopia, the Mercy tribe make a hole in the lower lip, placing discs of increasing size inside the wound to show when the women of the tribe have reached sexual maturity. The Bagabo people of the Philippines file their teeth down into razor-sharp points, creating a shark-like grin. And it's not just tribal women who use body modifications. Male headhunters from tribes in the Nagaland region of India pierced their ears, wearing large antelope horns through the wounds. Then they took to the nearby villages to sever the heads of their enemies, adding them to the grotesque collections. From the outside, these practices may seem barbaric and twisted, but for those within the tribes, these body modifications allow them to connect traditions of the past to the present day. A tongue piercing is more common body modification practiced around the world, but some are taking things to the next level and having their tongues split in two. Dustin Allor was one of the first to experiment with tongue splitting, threading a piece of fishing wire through her tongue piercing. The wire was then wrapped around the front of the tongue and tied to her piercing underneath, the tension slowly cutting through her tongue over time, achieving a forked appearance. This form of tongue splitting or bifurcation is a slow, painful process which can result in gangrenous infection and blood poisoning, so many people turn to surgery. Surgeons use two methods: the scalpel method, where an incision is made, and the cauterization method, in which an argon laser or a cautery pen cut through the tongue while sealing the wound shut with searing heat. This snake-like modification has become increasingly popular as it is reversible, but the reversal process is far more painful. Imagine hanging from the ceiling, and the only thing stopping you from dropping to the ground are several metal hooks inserted into your back, arms, and legs. It may sound like torture, but this is known as body suspension. Once a part of a religious ceremony called Okipa, body suspension is now a growing practice among modification enthusiasts and even performing artists. Metal wires or ropes are connected to large hooks shoved through the skin. Then the subject is hoisted up anywhere from a few feet to much higher on a pulley system where they hang or swing. In a piece for the Huffington Post, body suspension enthusiast Lisa Marteau swung from a bridge hanging by her skin, as she put it, flying over the rushing water below. Many choose body suspension for the adrenaline rush, a mixture of pain and pleasure to push their bodies to its limits. Body suspension is so popular that there is even an international suspension alliance educating people on how to practice safely and avoid infection. Some still argue, however, that there's nothing safe about it whatsoever. With advances in cosmetic surgery, body modification aficionados began experimenting with the limits of personal identity, altering themselves into post-humans, with many of them resembling human-animal hybrids. Eric Sprague, also known as the Lizard Man, has a full-body tattoo that took hundreds of hours to complete, covering his body in ink reptile scales. But Eric didn't stop there. He had his tongue surgically split in two, his teeth filed to a point, and subdermal implants above his eyes under the skin in order to look like a lizard. Then there was Dennis Avner, affectionately known as Stalking Cat. Dennis had his entire face surgically altered to resemble a tiger, after a shaman told him to follow the ways of the tiger. He had his upper lip split and partially removed, and metal studs placed between his nose and mouth to resemble whiskers. Huge cheek implants, an altered hairline, and a flattened nose created a cat-like shape to his face. To complete the look, he had his teeth filed and replaced with large canines. Sadly, Dennis committed suicide in 2012. Then there is Ted Richards, often referred to as the Parrot Man, for his resemblance to his favorite pet. He had his ears cut off, his face tattooed with feathers, and implants under the skin on his head, altering the shape of the skull and giving him talon-esque horns protruding from his skin. There are animal lovers, and then there are those who want to be animals. And with body modification, their unusual dream can become a partial reality. Superheroes have dominated pop culture for several decades, with a plethora of adaptations hitting the big screen every summer. Most people identify with their favorite characters, but one man felt a deeper connection to a villain and took his devotion to new, twisted depths. Henry Damon from Venezuela wanted to look like Captain America's nemesis, the Red Skull. He managed to persuade a surgeon to operate on him, transforming his appearance into something unnerving. His eyeballs were tattooed with black ink, giving them a demonic appearance. The red and black coloring on his face and the silicone injections in his forehead gave him a striking resemblance to the character. Most drastic of all, however, the end of his nose was cut off, so his face resembled a skull, as if the flesh had rotted from the bone. Henry says he isn't done yet and will continue to surgically alter himself until he truly looks like the real Red Skull. This ongoing process is common in the body modification community, where the continual search for perfection remains forever unanswered. Thank you for watching. I've recently released exclusive merch featuring a number of pieces from Seriously Strange. Now you can get many of the shirts that I've worn in my videos for some time. Just check the link in the description below to visit my store and get your merch while it's still there. Your purchases help to keep my channel running. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to also check out my Patreon, watch another one of my videos, and of course, subscribe to my channel because you won't want to miss what's next. And I'll see you next time.